All right, guys. So this is a review that I actually wasn't planning to do originally, but I recently started making a new animation with this figure today. And through that process, or like planning that and starting the beginning stages of that and stuff, I noticed some missing things that I would really like to see included in like perhaps a future like player 2 Vega or something. So I decided why not just make a review for it so that hopefully if Jada Toys or somebody sees the review, at least I got to voice my feedback and stuff that I'd like to see as well. So this should be a fairly quick review. I don't plan to go super detailed. I want to focus on a few key things that I have here like written down on a kind of like a checklist. So first of all, the figure looks pretty good. It looks solid. I like the matte finish. The mask looks solid. See the mask right there? Looks really, really good and stuff. It's a solid looking figure. I love the red sash and the articulation in it. It has the wire and stuff. Really, really nice. I like it. So this figure overall, I do like this figure. It's a really, really good Vega figure. And honestly, I think it's probably comparable to, if not possibly better than the SH Figuarts version. I had the SH Figuarts one years ago, so I'm not, current on all the my memory of all the details and stuff, the accessories and whatever, but I feel like this competes with the SH Figuarts very, very well. So for the price, this is really a good value for your money as far as, comparing it to that for sure. So yeah, I want to get into the first thing here is the unmasked head sculpt, right? First issue, the eyebrows. Well, one of the eyebrows. And this is a common issue I've seen on other people's reviews as well. The eyebrow here, the paint doesn't go all the way. You see like it's missing some paint there. So that is a QC issue, right? So Jada, hopefully they fix that, and like future, restocks or reissues or whatever of this figure have the correct eyebrow paint. Okay, that's the first issue right there. I might make a tutorial showing how to fix that. It's not, going to be very difficult, just a little bit of paint, but I know some people are not really familiar with like customizing and painting figures and stuff. So I might make a tutorial about how to fix that eyebrow. The second thing is he looks to me, and I've heard other people say it as well, he looks a little bit cross-eyed. Like I think like he's on the borderline. He's not completely cross-eyed looking, but I think his eyes are too close to the center. So it looks like he's almost cross-eyed. And from certain angles, he can look a bit cross-eyed. So I think they need to, move his pupils out a bit more to kind of avoid that borderline cross-eye look, okay? That's the second point. The third point is that the likeness for Vega here doesn't strike me as like when I look at the Ryu, for example, I'm like, yeah, that's Ryu. It looks like Ryu. When I see Ken, I'm like, yeah, that's Ken. But this Vega doesn't strike me as like, oh yeah, that's Vega. I feel like the likeness is not very strong. It looks like Vega a bit, but it doesn't strike you as like, oh yeah, that's Vega for sure. So I think the likeness could definitely be improved. To me, it's not very impressive from a likeness standpoint. Okay. Now let's see. The next point, the masked head sculpt has an articulated ponytail, kind of like on a ball swivel thing right here, right? So you can kind of pose that around how you want, rotate it, that kind of thing, right? Which is pretty cool. Honestly, I kind of wish it had a ball hinge, but it just has like a rotation thing. It doesn't have like a hinge to like go up like that, But the unmasked head sculpt, the ponytail is not articulated at all. It's just molded to kind of sit on his shoulder. And I wish the unmasked head sculpt also had an articulated ponytail. That's just me. Some people might not care because, people are not going to use this head sculpt as much as the masked one. So, but as an animator, like because I do animation, I like to have not as many options as possible, but just more options for how I can like pose his hair, how I could perhaps move his hair when he's like in a moving position and movement and that kind of stuff. This is just very, very limiting as an animator. Like as an animator, I can only have his hair like this and that's it. I'd rather be able to have his hair like in some different positions, like how for this one I can, have it moving around a bit. It's just, I prefer to have that artistic freedom, So if Jada does make a player 2 Vega or, that kind of stuff, different color Vega, I really, really would like to see an unmasked head sculpt with an articulated ponytail. And honestly, what I would like to see most of all, I guess, is an unmasked head sculpt with the ponytail like just falling straight down his back, like if he's just standing still. To me, I'd like to see that personally, but most people might not feel that way because they're not gonna have the same animation needs or artistic needs that I would have and stuff like that. But for me, that'd be pretty cool to see an unmasked head sculpt with the ponytail just going straight down. And then it could be articulated so you could have it, up in the air, that kind of stuff. I think the SH Figuarts was actually like that, where it would go down, but then you could have it on a hinge and all that stuff, And it would be really cool too, I think, if they had perhaps more than just one joint in the hair. So you could twist it here, to make it give you more options for how you pose it. Right now you can just, rotate it on this one axis. But if you could rotate it here, then rotate it here, And the thing is, because it's a braid, it wouldn't look like, horrible visually because it's a braid. So it already has a segmented look to it, So I feel like Jada should take advantage of the fact that a braid already has a segmented look and utilize that to put more articulation in the hair, So that is another point right there. Let's see what else is on this checklist. So another thing that actually is kind of stifling me a bit as far as animation goes, but I can, get around it. I just wish I didn't have to think of a way to get around it. Basically, they give you this mask that is, of course, like a loose mask where he's like, his mask is off or whatever, but there's no hand to really hold the mask. Let me see if I get it to focus. Yeah, I guess that's good enough. There's no hand to hold the mask, All you have are two fists like this, and then these kind of like splayed open clawing kind of hands right here. You get it focused. Yeah, like this, right? So he can't actually grip the mask and hold it like this, you see? So I really wish that they included some kind of hand for him to actually hold the mask rather than just like, you basically have to just kind of hang the mask in his hand like this, or, kind of manipulate the camera angle to make it look like he's holding it, or I don't know. I guess, let me see. I guess that kind of works. Yeah, that actually kind of works, but it's still like, it's not like a solid grip. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like a super secure grip. So I wish that he had a hand that had like fingers like this, where he could actually hold the mask like that. That'd be pretty cool. So if they make a player 2 or a different color version of Vega or something, I'd like to see an actual mask holding hand rather than just these like splayed open, like clawing hands. Okay. Next on the list is, let's see. Oh yeah, I would like to see a fist, a gloved fist like this without the claw attached to it. That'd be pretty cool to me. I personally would like to see that. It would have, if it already existed, it would have really helped me with the animation I'm working on. But since it doesn't exist, I have to just kind of, compromise without having access to that. The next thing here is, so if they make a player 2 Vega or something, or in different colors, Jada, please, if you ever watch this, if anyone watches this, please make a blonde version of Vega. I personally prefer the blonde look for Vega, and that is why I really like the look of the Sota Vega from like years ago. That figure, to me, I think it still holds up pretty well. And even more than the SH Figuarts, I think I like the look of that figure even more than the SH Figuarts. And the main reason is the blonde hair. To me, it's just like, it just looks cooler for Vega. I don't know. So if Jada makes like a player 2 Vega, a different color variation of Vega or whatever, Please let at least one of them have blonde hair. Please, that'd be like pretty cool. I really want to see a blonde-haired Vega figure, like a modern-day version. You know, the Soda one is like, you know, pretty old figure. Another thing, his torso is a bit wide. I don't know if my mind is playing tricks on me or my eyes are playing tricks on me, but I feel as though this one that I have and the Vega I saw at SDCC, I feel like the torso is slightly slimmer than the earlier reviews that I saw people reviewing it. You know, like I just feel as though he doesn't look as wide as I remember other people's figures looking. And I feel like from SDCC onwards, this figure, I don't know for sure, but I feel as though Jada possibly made the chest slightly less wide in like future batches or something. I don't know. I could be imagining things, but for some reason to me, when I first saw this figure, I was like, whoa, his chest is super wide. And now it's like, it's a bit too wide, but it's not as wide as I remember. So I don't know if I'm imagining things or not, but either way, he could still do with a bit of slimming down. Like the SH Figuarts Vega to me has that really slender look, which I think is more accurate to how Vega looks in the games. He doesn't have this kind of like wide muscular chest going on. He's more of kind of like a slender, trim kind of guy. So I think this really is a bit too wide, even though it's not as wide as I remember. The other, like your earlier versions looking possibly, it's still a bit too wide, and I feel like Vega should look like a very, you know, like a fit, slender, trim kind of guy. And this looks a bit too muscular in the chest area. So let's see. The last point. Would I buy a Storm Arena Vega? And the answer to that question is, if it's Street Fighter Alpha 3, then yes. And those of you who know Street Fighter Alpha 3 probably can guess the reason, because in that game, he has blonde hair. So if Storm Arena makes a blonde Street Fighter Alpha 3 Vega, it's pretty much a guarantee I'm gonna get that. Okay, so I'd be like, yeah, blonde Vega for sure. And so yeah, you know, apart from that, the figure's really cool. You got the gloves, the gloved hand with the claw here. You got the loose mask I showed earlier. Got this clawing hand here. Right, I will say though, it seems as though Jada painted this hand instead of just molding it in the flesh tone plastic. I don't know why they did that. You could just mold it in the flesh plastic like how this one's molded. You see, it's like one is painted, the other's not. This is really weird. Just mold it in the flesh tone plastic, man. I don't get why they painted this. It's very, very bizarre. But he has two fists. You know, one fist here has the claw on it. The other one's just a flesh tone fist for over here, right? And then you have this open clawing hand with the glove on, and of course the clawing hand without the glove on for his left hand. And then what else is there? There's this loose claw right here, which, you know, cannot go on to, it's not really, I don't know. I think honestly, Jada should have made this material here, these black parts here, they should have made this a really soft, rubbery material so that you could put it on this hand, you see? And you could have the open claw hand with the glove on. Like, they really should have done that. I don't know why they didn't do that, because the mask is this really soft, squishy material. So why not just make these the same kind of squishy material, you know? And then finally, he has this like swiping claw effect here, which is pretty cool. I, of course, don't really use these kinds of effects. Usually if I'm gonna be like, you know, animating something, I'd actually just use like, you know, some kind of green screen special effect or, you know, whatever. But yeah, this looks pretty cool, you know, and for the sake of the video, let's do just one pose, all right? For the people who love to see the posing. Let's just do one pose, and then we'll call the video a wrap. Let's see here. Put this here. All right. And then put the claw effect on there. And of course, as some people have said, this could also work for Wolverine figures probably, but I don't really collect Marvel figures, so I don't have a Wolverine. Let's see here. Hold on. Trying to get these on. Oh, there we go. All right. And let me try to like pose him a bit. Let's see. Hold on. Get that. Hold on. Let me try something. Yeah, I guess something like this could work. Let's see. Hold on. Oh, I thought it was gonna fall. Hold on. Let's see. Or let's put this hand out here. Yeah, that's a little better, I think. Can he stand? Will he stand? Yeah, there we go. So there he is with the claw effect on. And yeah, it looks pretty cool. As I said, I'm not a big, like, effects pieces guy, but I know a lot of people will like that stuff. And we could also put this like that. So it looks like he's really, in motion. And yeah, so that's pretty cool. So, Jada, once again, I would like to just thank you for starting, as I said, the affordable action figure revolution. I'm looking forward to Akuma from your current lineup. And after that, if you do Street Fighter Alpha 3, please make a blonde Vega. And honestly, even if Storm Arena makes a blonde Vega, and then you also make a blonde Vega, I'll probably buy both because I really like the blonde Vega character design. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching and bye for now.